Hi, everyone. I'm Mr. Taylor. I'm the high school librarian. So, typically at the beginning of the year for the Foundations of Literature course, you would come down to the library and I would meet you. I would recommend some books for you. I would show you around the library, how you can check things out, all of those things. But this year is a lot different. We're doing everything electronically using Koha, which is the catalog system. There's a short video to show you how to put a book on hold, which you can also watch. The purpose of this video is to give you a book talk, which is normally something I would do face to face, where I'm going to give you an overview of about 12 books. I'll tell you about some of the different genres we have, try to give you recommendations. You're welcome to take any of these 12 books out. So if you hear about it and you're like, I would really like that book, you can just jump onto Koha, log in, and put the book on hold, and we'll bring it to you. If the book talk makes you think of another book that you want to read, or if you think of something that you meant to read last year but didn't, you can go and search for those too. Additionally, one of the things that is kind of a drawback for this year, we can't borrow books from the middle school. So if you have a book that you want and we don't have it, email me. Let me know. My email address is jeffrey.taylor@penmanor.net. You can reach out to me, and even though we haven't met face to face, I will be happy to help you. And I hope I do get to meet you face to face at some point soon. But in the meantime, please reach out if you need some books or if you want some books or if you know of titles that would be really good additions. I often get a lot of great recommendations from the Foundations of Literature class, and so you guys are ones that will check out these books and will be required to do some reading during your course. And we want to make sure that you have books that you like. So give me ideas if you have them. Without taking too much longer here, we're going to jump right in. I like to include two nonfiction books at the beginning of every book talk. The reason I do is because I know there are some people who really enjoy those true life stories. We have a nice collection of books that are pretty high interest, but they are nonfiction. So here are an example of two of those. This one is kind of a medical book. It's neat. It's called Sawbones, and it's a little bit about kind of outstanding, incredible medical maladies, also about the history of medicine, all of these different diagnoses, ways they used to treat medicine that are completely outdated, but things that they used to do. So it's a pretty neat book if you are interested in um, just learning about the medical field. There are a lot of pictures and sort of graphs and things like that to sort of pull you in and explain these different syndromes. So, an interesting read for someone who's interested in the medical field, who's interested in nonfiction, just learn sort of maybe even a little bit of the grotesque because it's some of this stuff is pretty crazy. So it depends on your interest, but if that sounds like something you would like, look for Sawbones in Koha. The next book is also nonfiction, and I picked one that was really different in style and in topic. And this one's a sports book. If you don't find a fiction sports book that you like, you might find that you like some of the nonfiction sports book. This one's called Season of Life. It's a book about an NFL player. He plays on the Colts. He's actually a team captain. He has a great career. He retires, and part of the book is about what he does after he retires from the NFL and where he sort of finds his purpose. He eventually becomes an ordained pastor and a minister. It's about his path and what happens to him. It's a little bit philosophical, asking these kind of big questions about life and why are we here and what do you do? What do you do to keep moving forward? So if you're interested in something like that, Season of Life is a combination of that sports element, but also sort of a thoughtful book too. And we do have other sports biographies, different nonfiction sports stories that you might also like. The rest of the books that I have are all fiction and they're genre fiction. And all that really means is they're kind of broken up by category. So I try to choose a book from each category. And with doing that, the I'll describe the category to you a little bit and then I'll describe the actual book. And so if you do go to search in Koha, you could search in that category. We even have a virtual tour in the library where you can kind of look at the shelves if you wanted to do that too. So there are different options for ways that you can kind of find what you're looking for. The first book that I'm going to select here is an adventure book. So adventure books are a lot of times survival stories and often kind of life or death um, situations, but they're realistic too. In this one, we have a young woman who, when she's very young, she gets caught in a blizzard and loses the hearing in her right ear. And this will, of course, come back later into this story because as we flash forward years later, and she is in this small town where there's a medical emergency, and they have to go and get supplies for someone who is very very sick. And so her and some members of this town set out in the middle of a blizzard and in this freezing cold elements in order to get to another town and to get these supplies. And it's about what happens to them. Here, the wolves is the name of the book, but the wolves are obviously a part of it. I mean, they are being kind of stalked and followed, and it's about how they survive in order to attempt to get this medicine in time. So, if that sounds like something you might enjoy, that one is called "Hear the Wolves." The next one that I have here, fantasy and sci-fi are kind of the next two sections. We have them together. So I'll tell you about a fantasy book. This is a series that's been around for a little while. It's called The Iron Trial, and it deals with a magician, or different magicians who, when they begin to develop their powers, they must be tested. They must take the Iron Trial. And Callum, who is the main character, is forced to take the Iron Trial. He does not want to pass it, and despite his best efforts, he actually tries to go out and fail this because he doesn't want to learn magic. He's lost one of his parents to magic. He believes it is extremely dangerous. However, even after the Iron Trial, it's deemed that he is too powerful and he must be trained, and it's about what happens to him. There's also a large conspiracy at the back of this. There's a reason why his parents were killed. There's some things he finds out about himself and his family, and this is the first in a series of fantasy novels. So that sounds interesting to you. You might like it. A lot of adventure, pretty fast paced. That's the Iron Trial. The next book is a science fiction book. This is a science fiction book that was really really popular when it came out, and then it got turned into a movie, and then it has kind of become sort of more well known because of the film. So it's called Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. It is the story of a tech billionaire, maybe even trillionaire, who develops a virtual reality world that pretty much everybody participates in. It almost replaces the internet, and he owns it. He creates it. He designs it, and he makes a ton of money off of it. And then he dies. And when he dies, he puts in his will that the only person who will inherit his fortune and his company and his technology will be the person who can solve these riddles that he's hidden inside of this virtual world. And there's a mad rush to try to solve these, and people go crazy trying to do it. And 5 years pass, and not even one is solved yet. And that's where we get introduced to our main character. He stumbles across some clues. He's looked into trying to solve these riddles, and he is able to solve the first one. And this creates a second rush. There are corporations, people, everyone seems to be trying to get a piece of this in order to solve the rest of the riddles and then inherit this vast fortune. So a lot of virtual reality if you like technology. Maybe even if you've seen the film, because I think the book it really does add a lot. I think the book is really uh, the movie's fine, but the book is definitely, I would recommend it. It's much better, more detailed, but just really interesting. So if you like science fiction, you might like Ready Player One. So uh, the next genre that we have here is one that kind of connects to at least this example. It connects to fantasy. We have a graphic novel section, and we have manga in there, and we also have anything that's kind of connected to anime, some light novels and things like that. So if you're looking for something, you can check the catalog for this. I grabbed a graphic novel. This is Wings of Fire. Wings of Fire is based off of the graphic novel is based off some of books about these warring dragon clans, and a lot of pictures. They're usually pretty quick reads, because and even some of our comics and our like superhero related stuff is in the graphic novel section. So Don't forget about these. They are available. We have a bunch of different choices. You can look at the catalog and see if you can find something that you like. The next book that I have is a horror book. It's called City of Ghosts. And horror books, we have some that are legitimately scary, and others that more really just deal with zombies and supernatural and ghosts and things like that. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for. This one is a ghost story. I won't say it's like outright scary necessarily, but it is pretty interesting. You have a young woman who nearly dies. She almost drowns. And after this near death experience, is able to see through the veil, is what she calls it. But basically, she can almost pull back this curtain on the world and see the dead, see these ghosts. And she lives in this small area. She's seen a few ghosts as a kid. She doesn't really live where there's a lot of ghosts. And then her parents decide to move to London. And when they move to London and she pulls back the veil, she finds this thriving, almost ghost city, and all of these stories. And part of the problem with the book is there are other people that can do this. And she's not really sure what she is supposed to do with this power, but she begins to see that some people are maybe using it for manipulative purposes. And she has to kind of uncover this, go into the veil, and try to save the living. So if you like a ghost story, you might find this one pretty interesting. That's City of Ghosts. The next one we have is a much more realistic. It comes from our teen section, which is always more realistic. These are stories that are kind of with teenage protagonists dealing with real life issues, and some of those can be very serious. Some of them can be more lighthearted and more sort of like comical books. This one is called Dear Martin. Dear Martin is about a young man named Justice. He is on his way to Yale. He's gone to a prep school. He is kind of seems like he has his life ahead of him, and then he gets accused of something he doesn't do, and he's arrested, and he spends the night in jail, and this totally shakes his confidence in kind of everything. And it's about what happens to him after that. It's about his kind of awareness and coming to terms with how he feels about society and about justice, which is, of course, his name, but also one of the central themes of the book. And it's about something else that happens not long after he's arrested that sparks that sparks some protests and really puts things into perspective. So again, kind of a teen protagonist, realistic situation dealing with social justice and the treatment of this young man as he is as he's arrested. So that's called Dear Martin. The Dear Martin comes from he's kind of questioning whether or not Dr. Martin Luther King's teachings are relevant at all today, whether they apply to modern day society and to things that are going on in the world right now. So that's where the title comes from. The next book that I have here is a is a sports book. So with the sports books, if there's a particular sport that you like and you can sort of narrow it down by looking up the sport and then looking up with fiction or nonfiction or whatever it might be. Um, this book is actually one about is about fighting and is kind of a bit of a UFC style of book, and it's called Brawler. So we have this young man it starts out with a scene that's really kind of grabs you from the beginning. He's at a state wrestling tournament. He is a young man who has no control over his temper. He can kind of fly off the handle. There's a disputed call. Things go badly. He loses his temper and he punches the ref in the face. He's actually charged with assault. He's actually looking at jail time, and so instead he decides to run away and he takes off and basically so he doesn't end up going into prison because of this assault charge. He ends up on the street and he's trying to find a way to make money, and he finds sort of an underground fight club, and so he gets paid to do this sort of illegal UFC type of fighting. And the rest of the book is really about what happens to him while he's part of this group. So that's called Brawler. It's pretty intense, but it's got a bit of a sports element. Might be one. The next book that I have here is a romance book that's called Maybe This Time. I would classify this one as a romantic comedy. We have romances that are far more serious, ones that are kind of sad and tragic, ones that are like this one that are a little more lighthearted. So in this, we have a young woman who is working as a florist for the summer or for the course of the book, and there are these nine different kind of big events that are set out, and she is as she is going through these, you're sort of finding out about her life, about her relationships, and there's this one guy who keeps kind of showing up, and that's kind of like the romantic lead. It's about the two of these people and what their relationship will be, and you follow her as she does these nine events, and she goes to these weddings and these funerals and these big kind of parties, and she's planning the flowers and the decorations for them, but also sort of seeing other people's lives and trying to figure out what she wants out of her own. So it's a story again about relationships and about these two people. That's called Maybe This. The next book is called The Devil You Know. This is a suspense book. In this one, we have the story of a young woman who is kind of decides that she wants to have kind of just a little bit of just to get out, to get away, just to sort of have a fling. And she meets these two guys, and her friend decide they're just going to go on a road trip together. And she thinks that they are maybe not who they are. One of these two guys is lying about their past, is perhaps super dangerous, and you don't know which one it is as the story kind of keeps going, and you're finding out about them, but you know that they are in danger, and you're trying to kind of guess at the history of these two people, and while the main character is kind of in the dark, and it's kind of neat. You're kind of waiting for bad stuff to happen in the book, so it is pretty suspenseful. That's The Devil You Know. Last book that I have here is a war book. It's part of a series that's been around for a little while. It's called the Vietnam series. The first one's called I Pledge Allegiance. It's about this group of four friends. One of them gets drafted into Vietnam. The other three decide that they're going to enlist, kind of as an act of support. They each go into different branches of the military. And so the books in the course of this series are each in a different branch of the military. The first book focuses on the young man who goes into the Navy, and it's about his time there. And then the subsequent books kind of connect all the stories these friends together, and describe what they see in Vietnam. So if you'd like a war book, this is a quick read. It's not a very long story, so you can get through them pretty quickly. But if you're interested in another war story or a war topic, you can check out that section too. If you have any questions, please email me. I'm happy to try to help you find stuff to read, even if you just want to send me an email that says, I don't know what I want, but I know I want a suspense book. And I can give you a couple of recommendations or send you some ideas. I'll try my best to help you out with finding a book you actually do like, so you have something for independent reading. And hopefully I'll see you soon. If you do have, and finally, kind of, if you do have questions, you can email me, jeffrey.taylor@penmanor.net. And yeah, see you next time.